I suppose, first of all, I should congratulate you on staying in your job, because there are quite a lot of people who aren't there anymore.
Yes, well, look, I'm very pleased, obviously, to be staying. I've done quite a lot of work so far on future agriculture policy and environment policy as we come out of the European Union, but it's unfinished business. We've got the legislation in place, but designing the policies that flow from that and then implementing them is a key task for me over the next couple of years.
Okay, well, let's talk to you about the subject we were just talking with your one of your Tory backbench colleagues, Craig McKinley, about, and this is this expected travel announcement today. Every 3 weeks, it happens on whatever day the meeting actually happens, when people actually work out what they're going to do. We're told that this red, green, and amber traffic light system is going to be scrapped. It's going to be red and green, and we're going to possibly see the end of the day 2 dreaded expensive PCR test, possibly even the lateral flow test for those travellers who have been double jabbed. If that is the case, why could that not have happened in time for the summer holidays, for everyone to be able to afford to go abroad?
Well, I mean, the first thing to say to you is that I don't know that is the case. There is speculation around that I've seen. My understanding is that the Cabinet subcommittee that decide these things is meeting later today and may be considering these issues. But the rationale for having the requirement still for a PCR test on people returning from amber list countries was that, there remained concern and does still remain concern about the risk of variants coming in. And the rationale for a PCR test is that you could do the sort of genome sequencing of those new variants to make sure that we fully understood them. But I know that look, we're always keen to try to make the next step forward towards normal life. It was a big change to remove the need for quarantine for people coming back from amber countries. If we can do something further on the testing regime to make it easier again for people to travel without losing that important surveillance and protection, then obviously we're open to considering that.
What would be the rationale for the double jabbed and the unjabbed to face different regimes of testing?
Well, we all know, of course, that the vaccination gives us protection overall as a society. It gives us, I think, around 80% plus protection from getting the virus at all, and a much higher, sort of 95% protection against getting any serious symptoms. So it gives you protection, but it's not 100% immunity. So it's still the case, actually, that and we've had instances in recent months that people have had both jabs, but have still gone on to catch COVID, because it isn't 100% effective.
Yes. So what's the rationale for the double? I mean, there was at least some semblance of rationale for this way before we have the Delta variant. But now that we know that people who have been double jabbed can still get COVID, can still infect other people, you're not a safer person to sit next to because you've been double jabbed, whether it's on a plane or when you come back into the country. What would be the rationale for double jabbed people to be allowed to travel more cheaply and freely than those who are unjabbed?
Well, it's simply that the risk is lower.
The risk of what is lower?
Well, the risk of them getting the infection at all.
Why is that relevant to the person who's under? If the people who are double jabbed, and that's the vast majority, you, me, we're all double jabbed. Why is it relevant to us if someone else chooses to take the risk? I think they're crazy to choose to take that risk, but they're entitled to choose to take that risk, in my view. Why should we punish them for doing that?
Well, as I said, it's just those who have been double jabbed, the risk of them getting coronavirus at all is much lower, whatever the variant might be. And so it's right that we do that, and that's why we've had it so far, the surveillance testing on them when they return. But those who haven't had a jab at all, the risk of them getting an infection is that much higher.
But you haven't answered my question, with all due respect. Why is it? What is the rationale for that? Even if someone is more likely to get it, that's their risk that they're taking.
Well, look, it is, but there's also a higher risk to all of us if there's potential that they're more likely and have a much higher propensity to bring a variant of concern back to the UK. The
variants of a concern thing, that's a bit misleading, because we know that the vast majority, and I mean the vast majority of the PCR tests that are done are not tested for genomic sequencing to see if there's a new variant involved. So all the testing of millions of people travelling doesn't make a blind bit of difference to that. You could just simply do spot testing of various different plane loads of people on a voluntary basis, or just on a ad hoc basis, and then genomic sequence all of those, and you'd have more information.
Yes, but each step of this, look, we've been taking cautious steps forward. We've been very open with people about that because we want each step to be irreversible. We don't want to have to revert back again. And the context of this is, we removed the need for people to quarantine when returning from those amber list countries. That was a huge change from what went before. The right change, because we want to support people getting back to life as normal. But we chose at that point to say, well, we are going to retain this need for surveillance testing, PCR testing on return. That felt at the time like a proportionate approach. These things are always kept under review again. And as I said, I understand that the committee that considers these things may be looking at this issue again later today.
OK, let me take on to two other issues. AUKUS, this is this new strategic deal between Australia, UK and United States, basically to obviously sharing information, tackling cyber issues and providing nuclear-powered submarines to Australia. This has very much been seen by, well, everyone around the world, including China, as basically standing up to the growing influence and economic and military power and cyber power of China. Should we be concerned that China is concerned about AUKUS?
Well, look, China is a country that we work with on many issues, including, climate change. So at COP26 later this year, we'll be working closely with China.
Will we?
We will be, yes. And we're working closely with them on issues such as biodiversity loss around the world, where they are hosting a big summit next year. But there are other areas, obviously, relations surrounding Hong Kong. There are other areas where we've got, very legitimate differences with China, where we've had to raise these points. But I think that stepping back from this, that the UK, US and Australia have always been close partners, particularly on defence. The economy is growing. The economic significance of the Pacific region in particular is increasing. That's why, for instance, the UK is seeking to join the CPTPP partnership, an economic partnership around the Pacific. And I think it's right as well that we have this closer cooperation on defence, on intelligence, on military technology and so on with our closest partners such as US and Australia.
OK. Just finally, I want to ask you about more matters closer to home. We've seen climate change protesters on the M25 all this week blocking traffic, people going about their lawful business, and some extraordinary footage emerging of the police basically saying, what can we do to help? Why don't we make you a cup of tea, or bring you a cushion and to make you more comfortable, while they're blocking people going about their business, and then arresting the motorists who rip away their banners and get angry. Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, has called on the policing of the climate change protesters to be rather more robust. Do you agree with her?
Well, look, some of these issues are difficult. It's a very important tradition we have in this country, the right to protest. We always want to protect that. But, we are also looking at how you deal with some of these situations where people's lives are completely disrupted because of these types of protests. And I think, we do need to get to a point that people are allowed to make their point, but to completely seize up one of our major roads and arteries for our country, for people to get around, really, isn't the right way to behave. And we've got to try and strike the right balance.
What is striking the right balance? Surely the right balance is if you sit down on a major road, you are immediately arrested and prosecuted.
Well, I think there's a huge safety risk as well, linked to that. And
the woman airlifted to hospital after a pileup, which people believe was due to the fact that all the traffic had been stopped by these protesters.
Of course, there's a real safety issue around this, particularly around motorways. So while people have got a right to protest, this type of protest that is a risk to road safety is something that the police should be.
But not just the issue to road safety, Mr. Eustice. Surely just the right of people to go about their lawful business, to deliver their goods, to get to their workplaces, to visit their families, get the kids to school, whatever it is. The right of people to use our roads lawfully and not be stopped by doing it because someone feels strongly about insulation.
Yes, of course. And so the police and crime bill that we have is trying to sort of address some of these sorts of extreme protest activities where you've got that balance of rights, protecting the right to protest, but also, crucially making sure that where you have highly disruptive protests that stop people going about their life, there is, some ability for the police to have the powers they need.
Environment Secretary George Eustice, thank you very much indeed for joining us.